Sexual emergencies are breaking out across Europe. An Iraqi migrant has admitted to raping a 10-year-old boy in a Viennese swimming pool so ferociously that the boy had to be hospitalized for his injuries. The man said he knew it was wrong but couldn't help himself as he hadn't had sex in months. During his interrogation, the man attempted to excuse himself by saying it had been a sexual emergency. On the 2nd of December, he brutally attacked the young boy, pulling him into a changing cubicle, pulling down his swimming trunks and assaulting him. Although the boy cried, he was not heard by anyone.
Doctor say, make this. I sleep 3 days in hospital.
Yes.
Because this is a problem.
What was the problem?
Problem here.
Problem there?
Exactly. Balls, it's very big. Like this. It's
Your
big.
balls.
Really. He said make sex with anyone or make anything.
We are 400 people, okay? How I can bring the girl to here, okay? She go like she go like make 400 times sex. Shit.
This is not by far the first sex attacks in a European public pool in recent months. And since the mass sexual assaults on New Year's Eve in Cologne have come to light, information about the sexual attacks on women and children have slowly been dripping out. And there have been reports all over Europe. The indoor swimming pool in Korneuburg in Vienna announced asylum seekers who are traveling without a supervisor will be banned, as there have been several incidents of migrant men invading the women's changing rooms. In Munich, 2 sisters were molested at the local pool. Age 14 and 17, the girls were groped under their bathing suits and possibly raped by a gang of refugees. The migrants were later released. In Linz, Austria, a horrified mother caught a migrant sexually assaulting her 3-year-old son in the children's pool. The woman stated that the migrant had his hands in his underwear and that she had witnessed him performing a sex act next to her young son. The police were not called, the report suggests. A coastal town in Belgium sought to ban migrants from local swimming pools after having received numerous complaints from female bathers and after police were called to investigate an incident involving an Iraqi migrant and a 10-year-old girl. However, this was swiftly rebuked from the Minister of Migration, who said it would be ill-advised. Belgium's Secretary of State for Migration has warned against sanctioning all refugees for the actions of a few. Asylum seekers live in open centers and they're free to go swimming, he tweeted, but hands off. In Saxony, bathers fled their local baths in terror when migrants began masturbating in a jacuzzi, ejaculating on the basin, defecating in the kids' pool, invading girls' change rooms, and sexually assaulting women and girls. Possibly because of widespread illiteracy of the migrants now in Europe, these pictograms have been made in a desperate attempt to curb the migrants' lack of self-control. Among other instructions, the city is begging the migrants to follow instructions even if they're given by female staff, and pleading with them not to harass or molest women and children at the swimming pool. In Bornheim, Germany, migrants were banned from local pools after numerous incidents of women being sexually harassed. At the same time in Dresden, 4 children, all girls between the ages of 11 and 13, were molested by a group of up to 3 migrants, all of whom have been released from police custody. And in the name of tolerance, diversity, and cultural understanding, the ban in Bornheim was overturned in less than 24 hours. As pressure from refugee groups called the migrant ban discriminatory. And examples of women and children being molested and raped in public pools across Europe go on and on and on and on. And all of this molestation is coming on the heels of migrants being banned from nightclubs across Europe for, yet again, that's right, molesting women. Which, given the gravity of their crimes, is a very lenient preventive measure when considering the punishment handed out to Muslim sexual deviants who commit the same crimes in Russia. And unlike Russia, many in Western Europe are aghast at the mass sexual assaults that happened in Cologne on New Year's Eve, which we talked about at length in a previous video. However, their horror was not directed at the Muslim gang rape, robbery, and violence against European women, but by the threat that these acts of mass sexual violence may cause xenophobia in the indigenous population. And thus, just after the events of Cologne, there were hundreds of German women that made it their duty to hand out flowers to migrants to show their solidarity with the migrants and as a gesture against xenophobia. And no, I'm not making this up. Links to this and everything in this video can be found in the description. But one must ask themselves, how can Muslims understand that it's wrong to rape non-Muslim children or molest non-Muslim women if in the aftermath of said sexual assault they are congratulated and handed flowers by the women of the same city? The sexual abuse of women and children has a long and disturbing history in the Islamic world, beginning with Muhammad himself, who not only married the 6-year-old daughter of Islam's future first caliph, Abu Bakr, but he did so when he was in his mid-50s. According to the hadiths of Bukhari, which are accepted by all 4 schools of Sunni jurisprudence, or the Sharia, he consummated his marriage with little Aisha when she was 9.
إجراء العقد فهذا أمر يعني ليس له سن معينة في إجراء العقد يعقد على حتى يمكن أن يعقد على فتاة عمرها سنة زمان مش 9 سنين ولا 7 سنين ولا 8 سنين عام ولنا في رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قدوة حسنة حيث عقد على زوجته عائشة وكان سنها 6 سنوات وبنى عليها يعني دخل عليها صلى الله عليه وسلم.
It is recounted in the hadiths that Muhammad condones sexual slavery. In the Quran, Allah even lays out the manner in which a Muslim man may divorce his pre-pubescent wife after having had sex with her if she displeases him or he is no longer satisfied with her. There are examples after examples after examples of very questionable moral actions carried out by Muhammad or condoned by Allah in the Quran. But without question, the canon of Islam makes clear that Muslims are given license by Allah and the example of Muhammad to sexually plunder non-Muslims. And this may help you understand why Muslims believe they are entitled to indulge their sexual urges with non-Muslims, whether consensual or not. The actions of Muhammad as laid out in the Quran and Hadiths are believed to exemplify the actions of a perfect man, and Muslims are encouraged to emulate his behavior for all time. Whether Muslims are attempting to emulate Muhammad or are just acting out on their own set of beliefs is irrelevant. There is a serious problem within Islamic culture as it pertains to men and their sexuality and how and when they believe it is appropriate to express it, especially when it concerns non-Muslim women, boys, and little girls. The largest contingents of migrants coming to Europe are coming from the Muslim world. In Afghanistan, there is a practice that has gone on for centuries called bachabazi, or literally boy play, which is a slang term in Afghanistan for a wide variety of activities that involve homosexual child sexual abuse and pederasty. The predator is commonly called a bechabaz, meaning pedophile in Persian. It may include to some extent child pornography, sexual slavery, and child prostitution, in which prepubescent and adolescent boys are sold to wealthy or powerful men for entertainment and sexual activities. Force and coercion are a common component of this abuse. Since 2001, there have been many problems between Muslims and U.S. servicemen over the former's propensity to enjoy buggering little boys. When a Marine suggested that the barracks be searched for children and that any policeman found to be engaging in pedophilia be arrested and jailed, the high-ranking Afghan officer insisted what occurs between the security forces and the boys is consensual, saying, "The boys like being here and giving their asses at night." He went on to claim that this practice was historic and necessary. If my commanders don't fuck the asses of those boys, what should they fuck? The pussies of their own grandmothers? His logic, while in the Muslim world, may be unassailable. But for many of the American soldiers in Afghanistan who were told to look the other way by their own commanders in the name of tolerance, diversity, and intercultural understanding, it was a hard pill to swallow. And Afghanistan is hardly alone in the Muslim world when it comes to widespread, mainstream, sexually deviant behavior. In Pakistan, another huge source of migrants to Europe, it would appear the same social sickness prevails there too.
आपने तकरीबन कितने बच्चों के साथ जना किया?
तकरीबन एक वो था और 10 और 11 12 तक।
उनकी उम्रें क्या थी?
7-8 साल 10 साल तक थे। छोटे थे।
मैं तो वो तो उस तरह से चाहता करे।
हाँ जी। हाँ करे। डबी वाला दे, गम वाला दे। कल रात ही रबी तरह के जगलत कार
इस तरह का होता कि वो बचा गया और बस सब ने काम किया था इनके साथ। हाँ वो बस में था। वो बस ये जिनसी ख्वाहिश थी उनकी और उनकी गांड मारी थी उनकी। हाँ मैं भी बीच में शामिल था लेकिन बस क्या करते उन्होंने खुद बुलाया था। बस वो भी इस तरह का बचा था कि कि घर पर रहना चाहिए, बाहर नहीं। औरत बाहर की चीज़ नहीं है, घर पर रखने के लिए। अच्छी सी बीवी देखेंगे क्योंकि उन्होंने कुरान पढ़ा हो और नमाज पढ़ता हो अच्छी सी आया इज़्ज़त की।
दीन और इस्लाम बहुत ज़रूरी है ना?
हाँ हमारे लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है क्योंकि हम मुसलमान हैं।
But in reality, the dysfunctional societies that have been created in the Islamic world by having a culture that so obsessively represses the normal sexuality of its people and making men and women interact as little as possible is now spilling over into the West via the massive migration hitting the continent. From the sex slave markets in Syria run by ISIS to the gang raping and groping of women that was perfected in Egypt and called taharush, the sexual aggression and dysfunction of the Muslim world is now casting its dark shadow over the West. The millions of Muslim men arriving are from an entirely separate civilization that will never be able to assimilate. Muslims are from a different tribe of humans than those found in the West, and they are not interested in joining or making a new tribe. Islam never has and never will. The very word Islam means submission, and that is the only demand Muslims have ever brought to non-Muslims for 1400 years. Why is this so hard for so many to comprehend? Things are already beginning to change. Already women and little girls are being told not to walk alone. Already women and little girls are being told not to dress in ways that might excite the migrants. Already women and little girls are being told not to provoke migrants by walking near their state-funded shelters. Already Europeans are beginning to accept that jihad and the violence that comes along with Muslim migrants is here to stay and will only intensify as time goes on. Nothing will ever be the same for Europe. Things Westerners take for granted as a normal part of life are disappearing one by one. When looking at the experience of South Africa and the imploding nature of that country, what you glean is that people will put up with a lot, if it creeps up slowly enough. Sexual emergencies? Well, they're the price the West must pay for diversity, the price for multiculturalism, the price for tolerance, the price of continuing to accept millions of migrants and their culture, their attitudes, and their behaviors is the children of the West. They and their future are being offered up on the altar of multiculturalism. But how long will their sacrifice scapegoat the West and satiate the predators who smell blood and plunder as they circle around the feminized and helpless societies of Europe? And what happens when they again become hungry? What then, Europe? If this kind of material resonates with you, please click like, and even better, if you'd like to see more of this kind of material, please click the subscribe button.